Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be discussing about how you can create buttons, tabs, text fields and drop downs using Figma's new Autolayout feature. I know this video should have come a little bit earlier than my other videos in Figma Autolayout series, but it's never too late to talk about the basics. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started.
So here we are in Figma and we are going to create 4 different components using Autolayout. The first one would be the buttons, then we will see how we can design text fields, then drop downs and then tabs. All of this we are going to see how we can design using Autolayout, and this would be extremely helpful to you because you can make these buttons very comfortably and then unleash the power of Autolayout. Right, so let's see how we can create the buttons using Figma's Autolayout feature. First, we are going to enter the text, right? We are going to write the text. Let's give it a slightly bolder option, and then we are going to click on the text and press Shift A. So this will convert that text into Autolayout, right? And when you can give this a fill, you can give it a color to this fill as well. Right, let's select the color which we already have on the artboard, and then you can change the color here around. You can change other properties as well. You can give it a slight border, and there you go. You see, it's so easy to create a button. Right, now this button is not having an icon. Let's try to make another button which has an icon next to it. How do we do that in Autolayout? Let's get this button here. And now let's add the text. Let's write primary here and then okay. So now we have both our text and the icons together. We are going to select both of them and press Shift A. Right? Figma converts both of these elements into Autolayout, and you can see that in the layers panel. Right? This is the text and this is the icon. You have the option of aligning them horizontally from the Autolayout alignment selection panel, and then you can also adjust the spacing between them, right? You can increase it or decrease it as you want. Let's keep it to 8 pixels. And now let's try to make it similar to this button, right? So as you see that it has a rectangle over it, so let's try and convert this frame into that rectangle. Let's give an inner padding of about maybe 16 pixels. Okay, that's a little bit too high, so let's reduce on the top and a little bit on the top as well. Okay, great. Now let's give it a fill of the same color, give it a border, and then change the color inside the selection to white. Okay, that is pretty much it, right? So you see how comfortably you are able to make 2 different types of buttons using Autolayout. One is with icon and one is without the icon. Now that we have these 2 buttons, let's try to scale the text inside this button, right? Okay, I'm gonna make a copy and then change the text from primary to primary button. You see, the button grows. Right, and that is because the outer container, that is frame 21 here, is set to hug content, so it is hugging the content which is the text field. Now what would happen if I change the constraint and resizing of this outer frame from hug contents to fixed, right? Which would mean that this outer container, the width remains fixed, right? Horizontally the width remains fixed, so when I add more text here, the width is fixed and the text is flowing outside, right? We don't want this to happen, right? The button should keep growing. So that is why we set the constraint of the outer container not as fixed width but as hugging the content, so that the button grows with the size of the text. Great. I'm just going to delete this here. Now that we have the buttons in place, let's move on to the next component, that is the text field. Okay, we have two different types of text field here. One text field is without the label and one text field is with the label, and it also has an icon. Now let's see how we can achieve that. This will also begin with entering the text. Let's write that first. Enter text, right? And then we're going to select the text field and convert this into auto layout. Same procedure by pressing Shift A. Now that we have the text converted into an auto layout, we would now provide it a stroke on the outside, and then we will also give like a little bit of radius. Let's try to change the color to be something lighter. Great. So what is happening here is we want the text field to be obviously of fixed width. So let's try to stretch this a bit and achieve the fixed width of the input field which we wanted to achieve. Okay, great. Now let's try and make another text field which will have a label as well as an icon. Okay, let's just copy this. Let's add a placeholder. Okay, let's type password here. Okay, now we have a password icon as well. Let's try to fit in inside this auto layout, right? So inside this particular auto layout frame, we have a text and we want to have this icon as well. So we're gonna just cut this here and paste it while selecting the text. So it would just go and sit inside this particular frame. Right? And this is also auto layout. So now this auto layout has two elements. Let's try to align this horizontally by the alignment tool here, and you see we achieve the text along with the icon. Right? Now let's combine this with the label here. Let's bring it a little more closer, select both of these elements and convert this into auto layout by pressing Shift A. Right, you can play around with the spacing because this password text is one element and this particular frame which has the text as well as the icon is the second element inside the auto layout. Right, you see, I think maybe 2 pixels would be great. Wow, that completes making text field in auto layout, and that is so simple, right? You see, you achieved both of these two components, that is the button and the text field, so easily. Now let's move on to the next component, that is the drop down. Honestly speaking, I thought that drop downs would be extremely difficult to make, but it turned out that they are super easy. Right, so let's see how we can make a drop down. The closed state of the drop down is similar to the text field which we have made here with the icon, right? So let's just quickly make that. Let's select both of them and convert it into auto layout. Align them horizontally, get them a little bit closer, probably 16, and then let's give it a fill, right, of slightly gray color which is given here, and then let's give it an inner padding, right? Let's try with 8 pixels, and probably we need lesser on the top and bottom. Let's try 4, right? And let's give a small curve on the border radius, right? That makes it exactly similar to this. Maybe we need a little bit more padding on the left side, maybe 12, right? And okay, now the drop down is perfect, right? Maybe a different shade of gray, but yeah, the drop down is perfect. Now you see how easy it is to convert the elements which we had into auto layout. Now let's see how we can make the drop down in the open state, right? These options. So what we have to do is to start with both hover and non-hover state. You know, the hover state is highlighted and the non-hover states are not highlighted. So let's see how we can make that. First we are going to make the non-hover state. Let's type that first by writing option and then just simply converting this text into auto layout. We'll just write Shift A, right? This is converted into auto layout. Let's make it a little bit longer, right? Let's give it a definite width, and then let's copy another let's copy this and then change the background fill to something in the gray, right? So this is the option of the drop down which is not hover, and this is the option which is hovered, right? Now let's make some more copy of the non-hover state, right? Let's make some copies, and then what we are going to do is to select all of these options, right, and press Shift A and convert it into auto layout. Okay, you see this entire element which has all of these individual item of the drop down selection, all of these options are converted together into auto layout. We have a spacing of 23 pixel. Let's make it to 0 pixel, no spacing between them, right? And then we are gonna give some effect so that it gives a feeling that the drop down option menu is slightly up from the background, right? And that we are going to give in the effects panel when we will select the entire frame, give it a fill, right, and give it an effect. You see, it looks like quite similar to this now, but not that same. So what we are going to do is we will also try to give it a little bit of border. So now we have the open state of the drop down as well. The magic part is that feel free to, you can move around the individual elements to any other part to show the other option selection, and this is gonna give you flexibility to show different states which are selected. You can also give a more detailed look for individual selected items inside the drop down menu. You can give it a bolder look or anything which you wish like. See, that simple it is, right? Now let's move on to the next element, that is the tabs. Okay, so here I'm trying to achieve two different kinds of look for the tab. You see, there is one which has a background, and then there are 3 tab items, and then there is one which has a border in the bottom. Now let's see how we can achieve both of this using auto layout. First kind of tab, that is the one which has a background. Okay, so we'll start it in a very simple way. We'll start with a rectangle here, right? We'll give it a slide of the same shade. Probably we'll just pick the color from here, right? And then we are going to make these 3 tab options, right? The one option 1 is the one which is selected, then there's option 2 and 3. We will make it in the way we made other components, right? We will write option 1, okay, and then we are going to replicate option 2 and option 3, right? And all of these will get converted into auto layout, right? So we are going to select this and press Shift A. So this element is converted to auto layout, and these 2 elements are also converted into auto layout for having a uniform spacing, right? So option 1 is the one which is going to be highlighted, and hence it will have a fill of the blue color, and it's gonna be, the text is gonna be in white, right? And it is going to have slight border, right? Great. Now we are going to place these 3 inside this particular rectangle. That is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to select all 3 of them, convert it into auto layout, and then give it inside padding, right? Let's see both the options. First option is when we select all of these 3 elements, place it above this rectangle here. Okay, we will cover this entire thing. Okay, right now we select all 4 of these elements, that is the rectangle, the first tab item, the second tab item, and the third tab item, and press Shift A. So you see on the left hand side in the layers panel, all of them are converted into auto layout, right? And the frame 34 is the one which has the background. You can also check the padding option here. It has given a uniform padding of 8 pixel on the top and bottom. Left and right is 30. Feel free to adjust it however you want and give it a different styling or whatever styling you wish to. You can also change the spacing to less or more, whatever you want your elements to be. This looks slightly different than this because it has a different padding inside the individual tab items, which you can see clearly, right? You can adjust it as well, right? You can select it and give it a lesser padding, right? That's it, and your one type of tab design is ready. Now let's look at the other way of doing it. For that I might have to do Ctrl Z all the way to the back. The other way of doing it is to select these 3 auto layouts of the tab items and press Shift A, right? You see there is spacing of 32 pixel which is already provided, and what you can do is to give it a fill and give it the color to this fill, right? So simple. And then you can provide the padding. Whatever Figma had done it automatically in the previous way which I explained, you can do it yourself here as well. So you can give a padding of 12 pixel or a different dimension as well, whatever you feel like. Also you can give a slight border radius to make your tab layout perfect. Isn't it great? Now let's see how we can achieve this particular type of tab menu. Let's start from scratch. What you have to do is to create a text element for the tab items, right? This is the first one, this is the second one, and then you have the third one, right? And what you have to do is to select the individual text element and press Shift A. Now here it gets converted into auto layout, and the trick is that first you have to provide a white fill and then you have to add the effect, right? And how are you going to change the effect is that you are going to increase the Y factor a little bit more and reduce the blur, right? And then change the color to whatever you want the border bottom to be. Isn't it simple? So after that, you know the drill, right? It's fairly easy. You select all of these 3 elements and press Shift A so that they are converted into auto layout, right? And then you align them horizontally. Well, that's it. There you have the second type of tab. It is this simple. You see, we created 4 different kinds of components. We created tabs, we created drop downs, we created input fields, and we also created scalable buttons so easily in auto layout.
I hope you all got to learn something new about auto layout in this video. The tips and tricks which I have shared here are extremely basic, and feel free to play around with auto layout features to explore more about auto layout. Hit the like button if you learned something new today, and we will see each other in the next video. Till then, thank you.